Turn-based RPGs have always been an interesting category for speedrunning. Their slower, more methodical style of gameplay usually isn't where most people's minds go when they think of a fast-paced, adrenaline-packed speedrun. But kinda like how the limitations of old consoles force people to come up with crazy workarounds to make magic happen, so too do the limitations of this genre force people to come up with some creative solutions to make game go fast. Sometimes way too creative solutions, but I mean, we'll get to that. Pacing, you know? These games run the full spectrum. You've got everything from 40-hour RPG behemoths being reduced to sub-10 hours using insane amounts of optimization, like in the case of Final Fantasy IX or something, to games that have been picked apart relentlessly where you can just use gamer magic to go right to the end almost immediately, like Pokemon or something. But we ain't talking about them today. We gonna go in on Dragon Quest. Oh, and since I, might not get another chance to talk about the series for maybe a while, I've played them all, and my favorites are 5 and 8, but I'm aware that's not exactly a rare opinion. Let me know what yours are. I think they all have their own merits. Except 2, goddamn. So, Dragon Quest speedrunning, particularly Dragon Quest III, has always been a surprisingly technical affair. Basically, a complicated set of actions and movements are used to manipulate the game to act the way you want it to. I'm far from an expert, but you can use precise movements to keep the random values stored by the game at optimal levels. NPCs moving around can manipulate these values as well, so you've got to be on your toes at all time to keep the right amount of randomness going on. Also, I'm told the Phantom Ship is basically the Dragon Quest equivalent to the Joker.
Well, I'm the Joker, baby!
All this to say is that, despite being an RPG, you've got to be pretty much flipped on for the entirety of the game. One bonk into the wrong wall and you're hitting that reset button faster than when the Fall Guys infallible trophy quitting exploit was a thing. There's a lot of memorization and optimization that goes into something like this, so you can probably guess that it's going to take a fair amount of time to master it. Now, all that above-mentioned stuff makes for a run through the game that requires a ton of skill and is really entertaining to watch, but it's not really what I'd classify as insane. You know what is insane? Lighting your console on fire to shave time off the clock. Damn, last time I heard of people turning consoles into $300 fire hazards was the Xbox 360 towel trick. That one was an enigma. Your console's overheating, so you overheat it more? I've heard of fighting fire with fire, but anyways. Let's give this a rundown. This one and the next one were discovered by Japanese user Hitchi, who I assume is the Dragon Quest speedrunning equivalent to Gandalf. ROM cartridges are pretty different from the things we store games on today. Unlike a disc or a hard drive, the game's memory kinda exists in that physical space inside the cartridge, which is then pulled directly into the machine. This is why things like dirty contacts or a loosely inserted game cartridge could lead to weird bugs and visual glitches. Basically, what I want you to take away from this is, it's a lot easier to manipulate the software by messing with the hardware of these old ROM-based cartridge consoles. It's also important to note that while the Famicom and NES are technically the same console, they're about as different as Japanese and American Doritos. Those are, pretty different, by the way. So, once you start cooking the console, the control chip, not to be confused with the Dorito chip, starts acting a bit unstable, but in a kinda weirdly perfect way that lets you plow through the gates at level 99. Well, okay, sounds good. Now, how exactly do you get that temperature up on the Famicom? Well, I mean, obviously, you bust out the old hot plate and start cooking. Yeah, no, seriously, you've got to put it on that hot plate to get that heat up. You've got to get the thing anywhere between 50 and 80 degrees Celsius, and, you know, that doesn't sound like it's too hot, not even hot enough to boil water, but trust me, you definitely wouldn't want to actually touch that temperature. Now, if you're not in the business of using your Famicom to claim some fire insurance money, this trick doesn't specifically have to be done with a hot plate, as both really high and really low temperatures will make the console act like you poured a strong zero into the cartridge slot. Some people even posted pictures of the far less likely to turn your console into a plastic pan fry method of using ice packs to cool it down as well.
My lord, is that legal?
Now, stuff like this uses outside devices to manipulate hardware, so it's not really legal in most categories of speedrunning, but hey, when you can pull something off, you give it a go, right? So that was a few months ago, but you know, world records are meant to be broken. Fresh off of the presses from about a few weeks ago, Hitchi came back with another new technique I assume he found out by having a seance with the game itself in a dark corner of a Lawson's bathroom. So throw your hot plates away, you're not gonna need them for this one. But what you are gonna need is a Famicom copy of Dr. Mario, Kirby's Adventure, and Final Fantasy. First, you gotta play Dragon Quest III till you get to a save point. Easy enough, otherwise you'd have to start from zero after you do step 2, right? Oh, by the way, step 2 is ripping out your copy of Dragon Quest and replacing it with Dr. Mario. Alright, okay, well once you've seen that main menu screen, you're gonna want to throw in Kirby's Adventure, then immediately cross-counter it back out for Dr. Mario again. Then you gotta mess with Dr. Mario for a bit. Going into 2-player mode, set the virus level to 20, and press right on 2P's speed option exactly 15 times, no more or less. Still with me? I don't blame you, I'm not even with me. But let's keep going. Shit, which game were we speedrunning again? Right, Dragon Quest III. Throw that back in and you'll have 2 bugged characters with one being paralyzed. Run around until the paralysis wears out, cast heal, and hit that save point, because we ain't done swapping yet. Now, throw in Final Fantasy. Huh. Looks like Square and Enix were cooperating a lot earlier than we thought. Swap back to Dragon Quest and you should have a full squad of hit squad killers ready to go. Do a few more adjustments, including doing a warp, restarting the game, and copying the save file from slot 1 to 3, and bam, just like that you've reached the end. I can only imagine the amount of trial and error and reverse engineering that went into figuring out this exact sequence and what games to use. This is the kind of stuff that put man on the moon. So, what exactly is going on here? Again, I'm not some kind of expert, but the states of games like this are all made up by memory values. Imagine something like the password systems old games used to have, where you plug in a few letters in the games like, say no more, I'ma put you here. What you need to do is get those memory values to exactly where you need them to be. But how do you do that? Well, you already know what values you need to make the beat game fast work, but how do you get them? Well, when you slot a game into the Famicom, a little bit of data sticks around in the console, even after you pull it out. From there, it's all a matter of figuring out what games will give you that sweet, sweet stuff you're looking for. It's entirely possible that there's an alternate set of games that'll produce the same desired effect, as long as the data they dump to the Famicom is identical to the ones these 3 do. So, Hot Plate Percent ended up taking the time for Dragon Quest III speedrun down to about 22 minutes. How about Famicom cartridge swap cooperation percent? Yeah, under 5. Which is pretty crazy for a game that takes almost 30 hours to beat on a regular playthrough. Again, not legal for most speedrunning purposes, but just the fact it exists is a testament in itself. I, for one, am looking forward to the speedrun where you swing your Famicom around by the wire while you play, to create micro disconnects, allowing you to beat the game in under 4 minutes 30 seconds. Anyways, similar to the video I did for the fake Persona 5 soundtrack, I don't really have a thrilling conclusion or definitive statement to make down here. Similar to that video, I just wanted to tell a story that I thought was cool. Again, I'm not an expert, so think of it all as a layman's perspective into the situation. Dragon Quest III is a great game, and I'd really suggest you give it a go if you haven't. Controversial statement, maybe, but I think it's better than any of the NES Final Fantasy games. Anyways, that's all for today. Till next time.